In 2019, all of my work friends were obsessed with this specific JRPG. And I just kept getting these comments all the time from like all sides about how I, specifically me, just had to play it. And of course, then that made my inner contrarian come out and avoid this game like the plague. The strongest argument that anyone had for the most part was, there's this character who's really sweet. And like, yeah, it was neat that she shares my real name. My real name is a little on the unique side, right? But it's not really that big of a draw. Although I gotta say, I do really love my cinnamon roll war criminal named doppelganger. So maybe we'll have to do another video about her. Make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss that one. But then my buddy Matt, he's the one who hit me with the 4D chess move. It's like Game of Thrones, but if you set it at Hogwarts. And my curiosity just could not look away from that, right? Like, Matt is not even that big of a fan of Game of Thrones, but then he even followed it up with, oh, and that blonde chick with the dragons? Yeah, there's a character kind of like her. Y'all, my wife and I named our first dog Daenerys. There is still a custom portrait of Daenerys with her baby dragons hanging in my house. I wanted to see Daenerys at Hogwarts, so I bought the game. Yeah, I can say it proudly. I got exactly what I wanted and more. Because honestly, dare I say it, I think I might like Edelgard and support her crusade even more than I like Daenerys. Let's start in the world of Fodlin, in which our protagonist lives. Edelgard von Relsveg is a 17-year-old princess of the Adrestian Empire when we meet her. And right away, we see that she is both aware of her power and she takes it as a very serious responsibility. Much like Claude and Dimitri, she's over here already leading a class of future warriors for the church at their magical military academy, which, by the way, is sponsored, endorsed, and operated by the Church of Seiros. See, Fodlin has a pretty massive issue with the separation of church and state. Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri are all future leaders of nations, or nation equivalents at least, but they and their parents are all beholden to the Church of Seiros. And then the Church of Seiros is entirely beholden to this bitch, Rhea. That's an affectionate bitch, by the way, a gay bitch, if you will. Rhea has earned her crown of bitchiness, and I mean that with love. See, Rhea and the church, they keep all three of these nations locked into a steadfast caste system of crests. And before we can really discuss too much more, we do need to understand what crests are. They are like a core mechanic of the game and also a really key story point when it comes to Edelgard and her motivations. The too long didn't read is ultimately that crests are essentially birthmarks given by dragon god Seiros to humanity, and these birthmarks give people like special abilities and access to certain magical weapons and in general just like more magical power. It's a little bit more complex than that, but roll with me here. I'm not Gracie Fitzpeter or Quentin Reviews. I do not have it in my soul to edit a 5-hour video, so we're getting the Reader's Digest version. But considering the power that these crests have, they are pretty sought after and really highly regarded, especially by the aristocrats and royals. Go figure. I mean, they just want their whole family lines chock full of crests to prove how important and powerful they are. And I mean, all of that is also being done with a great big thank you, Sothis, and your children for giving these to us. Even though the situation with Sothis herself is its own quagmire worthy of an entire video, to be real. Now, over the centuries, this has all evolved into that pretty gnarly caste system that has really saturated all of the governing bodies in the land with just pure overt eugenics. Yeah, I can appreciate how cool it is when Edelgard or any of the other crest students can pick up a magical weapon made of dragon god's bones and do insane tricks with it. That shit's cool. But also, speaking of those insanely cool dragon god bone weapons, if someone without a crest tries to use one, this happens. And you know what's extra wild? It's not even just Micklin turning into a demonic beast for trying to take the weapon that's meant for his brother. It's even natural-born crest bearers. Mostly, if they overuse their crest, they'll just get tired and now you can't play with them anymore in that combat. But there is always also the chance that overtaxing their crest could turn that character into a demonic beast. So, thanks God. And then it all just gets even wilder when you get into the nuts and bolts of how some of the people in Fodlin are even trying to force introduce more crests into their children's bodies. We'll take Lysithea here as a case study. Lysithea is not even a member of the Black Eagles, Edelgard's house, which, by the way, we will return to that name because I have feelings. And she is so far away from Edelgard, right? Like, in fact, her family was actually punished by the Adrestian Empire for their role in an uprising against the Empire. The important part is that Lysithea then is instead a member of the Golden Deer with Claude. And that's an important perspective because that helps us recognize that everything I'm about to talk about is not an Adrestian Empire issue. It is an all of Fodlin issue, even in the comparatively chill region. So, Lysithea, good little rich girl that she is, she was born with a minor crest of Charon, and from a young age, she was immediately recognized as a magical prodigy. But that wasn't enough for her parents. She was forced through an implantation procedure that drastically shortened her lifespan and damaged her young body. But hey, it gave her a major crest of Gloucester with it, I guess. The crown princess of Adrestia was also tortured in her early childhood into having 2 crests. Yeah, there is a canon reason why both of our girls have that silver white hair and lavender anime eyes. They're actively dying as their bodies are consumed by the excess magic put into them as children. Good plan, everybody. Yeah. It's not like these 2 magically super strong glass cannons might hold any resentment against the systems that brutally victimize them for bragging rights. I'm sure everyone involved will be a good little soldier for the goddess who introduced crest to all of them in the first place. What? I don't have religious trauma, you do. Anyways, back to my girl Edelgard. So, once upon a time, there was a cute little princess with dark blonde hair who enjoyed hanging out with her stepbrother, the prince of the Holy Kingdom of Fargus. But one day, while hanging out with her nice little blended family that actually would bring a lot of peace and stability to the region just by being a family, well, she gets kidnapped. Fuck that peace and stability, right? Eventually, Edelgard does get returned home to Adrestia, but only to be given by her family to those who slither in the dark along with her siblings. In an extremely short recap, those who slither in the dark are a group of enemies to the church, but really they're enemies to everybody. They literally started with a guy named Nemesis, and his whole claim to fame was that he attacked the goddess while she was sleeping and tore her body apart and then turned the pieces into weapons. These slitherers, because let's be real, their name is just too damn long to keep saying in full, they proceeded to go down the royal line of children and just torture them to implant that second crest. Each of these children died horribly in the process until they got to the baby, Edelgard. And now, in single digits of age, she has lost her family, her peace, and her bodily autonomy to live her days in a dark cell full of blood and violence. But I'm sure she's fine now, right? Like, she's fine. What's she got to complain about? She's the crown princess. And I mean, look, she's so well adjusted. She's doing well in school. She looks really good with the white hair. I mean, it's been a couple of years now, like I'm sure she's over it, right? I know this is the internet and it's hard to tell sometimes, but I just need you guys to know that that was sarcasm. Oh, and the slitherers are absolutely still hanging around. Through her uncle and plenty of other corrupt politicians, they have fully integrated into the political system of, well, everywhere, but especially the Adrestian Empire. That's where Edelgard's dad, her only remaining immediate family, he's also been drained into like useless puppetry, and so they're controlling the whole empire right now through him. So our girl Edelgard, full of spite and cleverness, she starts working on a plan. Yeah, she's gonna go to school and she's gonna be a good little princess and she's gonna keep her friends close. She's also gonna be keeping her enemies quite a bit closer by convincing them that she is one of them, by becoming the Flame Emperor. And just real fast, let's stop and appreciate the 17-year-old girl who has seasoned soldiers on all sides of a combat shaking in their boots. And I will be real, I will be honest and upfront with you. Her hands are not clean when it comes to her acts as the Flame Emperor. But also, if we're being honest here, there are really no clean hands to be had in this story. At least, all things considered, Edelgard has a plan. Those who slither in the dark, they hold too much power for her to openly rebel against them, right? Especially when with a little bit of cunning, they can actually be used to help Edelgard achieve her goals of overthrowing the entire crest system. Now don't get it twisted. Edelgard absolutely has a bone to pick with the church and how it upholds this entire eugenic caste system. Yes, the church is on the list of Edelgard's enemies. But first on the chopping block when she eventually comes into her power, it's going to be her uncle. Then it's going to be a lifelong pursuit of those who slither in the dark. She's got a plan to destroy them and their influence and enact retribution for people like herself and Lysithea, who are tortured and or murdered for Slitherer goals. It just really sucks that she does have to pretend to be one of them for a while. See, they are fully in control of Adrestia. They could make this bitch go away like they did all of her siblings. So, to avoid that outcome, Edelgard is laying low. Yeah, I'm totally on board. I'm totally willing to look what you say. Look! I'll kidnap one of my classmates and I'll drop them safely in the school basement to prove how willing I am to be puppeted. Just let me sit on the throne. It's cool. I promise you, I'm gonna be totally like my dad and uncle for you. Just give me that throne. She's playing them in the same way. She's playing them like they think that they are playing her. And it makes sense. I mean, you can't take on the entire world all at once with an army composed of your 7 friends from high school. Edelgard has to get her strength from somewhere, and playing the Slitherers gives her that starting advantage. Quick note for context, especially if you've played the game and are familiar with the other routes, this video is mostly going to be following the Crimson Flower storyline from here on out, even though I think personally most all of what I have to say still holds in the other playthroughs, just maybe with a few little minor tweaks. That's actually the aspect of Fire Emblem 3 Houses that I am most impressed by every time I play it. What I thought it was going to be, but it is not, is 3 different routes that explore the exact same scenario from different sides, which already would have been super cool, right? Like if Crimson Flower and Azure Moon were both literally the exact same story, but with different perspectives of who is the hero and who is the villain, I already would have been hooked. But no, even cooler, our characters and their conflict, it does not exist in a vacuum, because we, the player, as Byleth, are there, right? Like we're observing, we're interacting with these kids as a mentor, and we're helping them on the eve of their adulthood as they find themselves in a really complex political landscape. By nature of Byleth choosing one of these houses to nurture, then we change the entire outcome of this conflict and the future of Fodlin. The downside then, narratively though, is that for our girl Edelgard, when Byleth isn't there to guide her, she really is trapped as a puppet to the Slitherers. She is completely alone and powerless, and she really has no space to do anything but act in pain. I mean, hell, in Azure Moon, nothing about what I've told you thus far changes, except for the amount of hope and agency that Edelgard has. But yeah, hey, that's enough to blame her for the war that shouldn't have happened. In Silver Snow, Edelgard yet again becomes an unrepentant villain, right? And I kinda get why. Byleth chose her, Byleth trained her, nurtured and supported her into becoming her own woman. And then when Edelgard fills Byleth in on the plan, we turn our back on her. And then we're all surprised when she goes, well, fuck you too, you're also a part of this horrible system, and she starts a war. Out of rage and out of vengeance on this whole fucked up bullshit system. And in either of these routes, known as the church routes, by the way, her only allies left are those who slither in the dark. Like, it's no wonder that she's not doing that great mentally. In Silver Snow, Edelgard's even being actively fought by all of her closest academy friends who chose Byleth over her. I'm like, damn, dude. Ouch. She was already in a pretty precarious position, and then we as the player are supposed to be all shocked Pikachu when she decides the whole thing fucking sucks and needs to be turned down. In Crimson Flower, on the other hand, Edelgard gets herself a mentor in an outside adult who is completely unbiased on all of this crest bullshit. And that's really all the push it takes that turns her into the hero that Fodlin needed. And hell, I'll throw this out there. Silver Snow and Azure Moon actually make me side with Edelgard more, because these 2 church routes actually make me hate Rhea the most. Like, yes, Rhea explicitly starts breaking down in Crimson Flower after Byleth sides with Edelgard, and it's not a great look for her. But I will say, Rhea, for the first time in centuries or maybe even millennia, is on the back foot throughout Crimson Flower. I don't necessarily blame her for her villainous reactions so much as I think she's just reacting, and those reactions happen to be villainous. Especially because Rhea has like a really special connection with Byleth and a plan to like use Byleth. Oh, we'll get there. But just know I understand why Rhea feels hot about this. Like, even in my first playthrough, my instinct was always to side with Edelgard, and Crimson Flower was the first ending that I got. And because of that, I assumed that Rhea was very much being colored by this particular route, right? Then I get around to finishing all of the other routes, including the church routes, and I discover that, wow, Rhea really is holding these same insane ideas and same self-serving goals as she is in Crimson Flower. But in these, I guess she sings to me sometimes. And here's where I'm probably gonna get the comments, right? I have noticed a fair amount of online discussion about how Edelgard is still in the wrong for inciting her revolution because the church was never actually the ones who hurt her. As we established, it is those who slither in the dark who did it. I'm gonna go on record as saying that that is a short-sighted take. I think it assumes that Edelgard is acting out of nothing but vengeance. And I think it requires us to believe that a highly educated, high performer who has been chosen to lead a class of future leaders at the most prestigious officers academy in existence, right? This girl who was born and raised to lead an empire in this current system, that she doesn't understand the power or influence that all of these people have? Like, look at that pedigree. And tell me that Princess Edelgard von Relsvig doesn't understand the influence of the Church of Seiros on politics and society. She is literally sent to battles as a child to uphold the church's values and ideals. And you, random internet Edelgard hater, you expect me to believe that her entire motivation is nothing more than just lashing out because of her trauma? Fuck that. Like so many people on this planet, I've got trauma and I've got privilege. And, like a lot of other people, my trauma was dismissed and or made worse by the church systems around me. But I've never felt the inclination to go burn a church down, and certainly not because I am sad. And that's even considering how I see every day the way that values get weaponized under the guise of religion, and then across all of history they're just used over and over to further victimize and marginalize people. But despite all of that, me and plenty of other people out here, we're not trying to dismantle all religion just to spite the assholes or anything. We're all just trying to live our lives the best way that we can. And I mean, like, I'm just some random internet nerd. I have no credentials for you to believe here. But even I can see how the church, in the most church-loving of roots in this story, they are at a minimum complicit, if not fully culpable, in influencing and supporting the intense eugenics happening all around Fodlin. Those who slither in the dark absolutely partake in this violence, but they are by far not the only cause. Eventually, Edelgard, after finally convincing the Slitherers that she won't be a threat, she convinces her father that it is time for him to step down from the throne. And that means that it's time to start a revolution against that very same system that she just overtook. She's not a terrorist, and she's not acting out because she's hurt or out of desperation. Instead, she is a person with the power, the privilege, the understanding, and now the authority to actually dismantle this system. This same system that has been actively and passively hurting people for centuries. Edelgard was already ready to go. So when Rhea then turns into a dragon and presumably kills Byleth, a teacher, for the act of siding with her students, well, guess what, y'all? It's time to start that revolution again. There is a little bit of something I might have forgotten to tell you about Rhea. Let's start with another story time. So once upon this time, there was a god named Sothis, and she appeared millennia ago as the progenitor god for this whole world. Along the way, she created the Nabateans, who are her children, the dragon gods, and she guided humanity into creating this like really advanced civilization known as the Agarthians. And generally things were really cool up until one day the civilization betrayed her and ended up starting this crazy ass war. Sothis, then being god, she did use her god powers to heal the war-torn region, but that shit is so exhausting. So she went for a little cat nap. And that is when our aforementioned nemesis killed her. He turned her spine and heart into a really kick-ass sword. Now, naturally, this got a reaction from her children, the Nabateans. One of those children, Seiros, rallied the other ones into a whole new war against humanity. And in that war, she defeated Nemesis and took back the sword made out of her mom. Seiros then proceeded to found the Church of Seiros because she's very humble. And in that church, she would rewrite all of history to hide the truth of the Nabateans and the Agarthians from all of the surviving humans. It was super above board. And time turned and life continued with Seiros as the head of the church as Rhea. So, quick recap because that was a lot of fantasy history. Rhea is secretly a god who started and runs a church that worships her and her chosen version of history. Her god powers and immortality also allow her to make sure that that church runs all of Fodlin and can control political affairs over and above the human empires and nations. No, transparency, can't say I've ever heard of her. I don't care how good your intentions are, that is some sketchy ass shit, y'all. Digging in even more, Rhea potentially could be a really cool autocrat, right? Maybe she's one of the ones who uses all of that authority to take care of people and to stop the humans from doing stupid shit that just increases pain, right? I mean, she's in a really unique position. This isn't like the Christian church that we know today, where in a kind of best faith, literal definition, the Son of God comes and is like, hey guys, these are my words on how to be a good person. And then because he died, millennia of fallible humans have twisted and weaponized those teachings for their own uses. Instead, this is more like if Jesus started the church and Jesus decided all of the teachings, and then Jesus wrote the Bible, and Jesus stayed alive forever as the foremost authority on morality. And then somewhere down the line, Jesus goes, yeah, that caste system y'all put together is fine. I'm not really gonna do anything about it. It's like if we went to him and pointed out a little child nun over there who's only a nun because she was born with a crest and her stepfather tried to kidnap and SA her into being a baby making machine. Yeah, it's like if Jesus said that was fine, but instead her brother, Jaritza, the guy who killed his family to stop her being a baby making machine, yeah, he's actually really immoral and he deserves to be ostracized as the Death Knight. Even though he probably wouldn't be the Death Knight if there had been any intervention from anyone at the church in any stage of this across centuries. Like literally someone, one person, anybody at any point could have stopped either the system or they could have even just stopped Mercedes' stepdad from being an asshole, right? But no. The one person who did something about it, they're the bad guy. And that's a little bit of a theme with this church. In every root. Legitimately, the history of the region is that Rhea is autocrat Jesus. And that's not, oh, we're just getting Edelgard's side of why Rhea sucks. Like, that literally is just Rhea. And you know what else is just Rhea? Making people with the specific purpose of trying to get them to rebirth her mom. No wonder she didn't take issue with Mercedes being turned into a baby-making machine. Rhea is in the baby-making machine business. Unfortunately for Rhea, though, only one of her golems actually worked out. So Citri was a faithful daughter of Seiros, and she had this beautiful love affair with one of the knights of Seiros, Geralt. And they even got pregnant with a beautiful little, baby of Seiros, Byleth. It's really cute. Aww. And then Byleth is born. And Rhea performs a fucking heart transplant on the newborn baby to put a crest stone in that baby's heart while Citri bled out and died. Yeah, she can shove stones into newborn baby hearts just fine, but she can't save one of her most devoted from childbirth complications. Fuck all the way off with that, Rhea. And it is because of this same sus-ass behavior that Geralt, who didn't even know half of it, that he ran off into the night with his baby. Even not understanding what the hell just happened, he still knew that raising his child to be a mercenary in the wild was infinitely safer than letting that kid anywhere near Rhea. And that's actually why when we start the game, Byleth doesn't know jack or shit about the Church of Seiros, right? Byleth only ends up in this story after coincidentally running into some kids from the Officers Academy out here trying to fight bandits on their own, because the fucking Knights of Seiros are somewhere, not here, but thank the goddess. Byleth and Geralt are here to save all these noble kids from getting murdered and starting a different war, because that's just the sort of shit that happens around here. This is why Geralt has lied to Byleth for their entire existence, despite once being one of Seiros' most devoted. He's even lied about Byleth's age to them their entire life so that it's harder to tell if we're the exact kid that Rhea shoved that rock into that one time. But all that effort, all that running, all that mercenary training, it is all for naught. Because after we save these kids, the Knights of Seiros eventually get their asses to the scene. And when they do, they make it very clear. We are coming back with them. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. At least Byleth has options though, right? Byleth can become a professor at the academy, or they can become a professor at the academy. Wow, I really love the autonomy and freedom that Rhea is giving everybody here. So free. Love it. But during our conscripted time to the academy, we do find out something really interesting about ourselves, aka Byleth, that progenitor god that Rhea wants back so much. Yeah, she's totally alive in our head. And even though Sothis' memory is a little bit fucked up from the whole like soul rock transmutation bullshit, she's very aware and she has a lot of opinions. She just loves to share those opinions with us. They're just a little side effect of the rock shoved into our little stillborn heart. Oh, yeah, which by the way, you know how Byleth's mom died in childbirth? Actually, so did Byleth. Which just further demonstrates to me that it probably was in Rhea's power to save both Citri, that person that she built from the ground up, you know, and Byleth. But nah, I mean, it makes sense. Citri and Geralt would complicate things too much if they're around. Instead, just let Citri, you know, do what we gotta do with this baby. And speaking of Sothis, you know what actually really cinches it for me? That Rhea, at a minimum, deserves to at least be, like, deposed. Her own mother, Sothis, in the head of Byleth, agrees with and understands why Byleth chooses to side against the church, right? The god of the church understands. She is sad to side against her own daughter, but otherwise Sothis is gung-ho on the, yeah, this system sucks now. Like, let's try something else. Forge your own path. At least in Crimson Flower. She also has some complex opinions in the other routes too. That's just Sothis' main character trait, opinions. And here's the thing, while I'm over here dogging on Rhea, I actually really like her. I enjoy talking to her and I seek her out on all of my explore days. I married her in the Silver Snow route and her singing voice is just as pretty as her face. I like her complex story quite a bit. I like her friendship with Stone Cold Seteth, and despite everything, I actually think that the Officers Academy is doing a pretty good job raising future leaders. These kids all fucking care about the kids in their charge. But I also think that Rhea is a selfish asshole who shouldn't be low-key ruling all of Fodlin unchallenged and who thinks of humans as pets. None of these things are mutually exclusive. But to the matter at hand. Now that we have established that Rhea and the Church of Seiros are absolutely problems, there is still the question, why burn it all down? Why start a war in which hundreds or thousands will die for the sole purpose of destroying the existing political system? That is a valid-ass question. I will say, I don't think Edelgard's sole purpose is destruction. In fact, remember that insane pedigree of like education regarding government and political systems and influence and yada yada yada. Edelgard came prepared with a whole ass plan for the merit-based democracy that's gonna come after her. Yeah, after her. She's not gonna pull a Rhea and tell everyone, guys, I made a new system for you, and now I'm just gonna sit here unchecked so that me and my descendants, we can just rule exactly how we want to for millennia. This bitch has a clear plan. First, this bitch is gonna chase the Slithers out of their dark holes like a dachshund going after a badger. And that's something that's even more doable with a little bit of assistance from Byleth. Then, she's going to dismantle the crest system by stripping the established church and political families of their influence and power. Third, then, is starting that new democracy that includes seats at the table for all of Fodlin and not just the Adrestian Empire and magically empowered nobles. Before finally, she is gonna retire and hang out in lesbian bliss with girl Byleth. Okay, that last one is super skewed, but that is just because I only play as girl Byleth and I am also very, very gay. But hear me out, right? Like, if you romance Edelgard, the plan is that you will both retire together after a fulfilling life of hunting down Slitherers. But then there's still, even if you don't romance her, then you just instead hang out as BFFs, and she retires and spends the rest of her days killing straggling Slitherers. So it's not just like a nugget of fan service thrown on to the end. Our girl is the only one in this game who has both a plan and an exit strategy. And I'll tell you this for free, as a millennial who has watched enough historical and political disasters unfold to know that we'll figure it out later is never actually a plan. Instead, it just keeps things going forever. Yeah, I appreciate someone who is actually gonna step away at some point. And narratively, how could you not want to sink your teeth into this moral dilemma? Like, purely hypothetical, because we're talking about fiction. Is it better to lose thousands in a single war that rebuilds oppressive political structures? Or do you allow those systems to continue, knowing that they are grinding down human lives, for the mere fact that you can avoid bloodshed. And let's be real, right? Those are not the only two options. Dimitri in Azure Moon, he is actually really big on the idea of gradual changes for the better. Even he, with his like one eye and religious fervor and everything, is like, yeah, I mean, crests have actually kind of been an issue. Maybe we should do something about that slowly over time with the help of the church. Because here's the thing, right? Gradualism is a really cool idea. It presents us with this wonderful concept that we can make things better without any large act of societal or cultural upheaval. It's like a gentle slope into a better place, ideally. And mwah, chef's kiss, I love it, good job. In a perfect world, gradualism is the way to go. But there is no perfect world. Not in a video game and not in real life. Like, I'm sure I'm annoying to all of my coworkers, but one of those things that I always have to say in my day job is that we cannot get hung up on how things should be. If we actually want to address something, we need to look at that situation as it realistically is. And the reality to gradualism is that we are trusting existing systems of authority, the same ones that are proving problematic. We're trusting them to give up that authority without any manipulation. That gradual change leaves the existing systems just exactly as they are, but now with the hope of change. And spoiler, guess what? Things don't actually change, right? Like, maybe the names or the faces do. Maybe if you're really lucky, you'll even get a token policy or two. Here you go, peasants. Enjoy your gay marriage, and just ignore the fact that in 27 states you can still be legally evicted for being gay in 2026. You know, somehow I feel like my position hasn't actually improved that much in the last 9 years. Wild. Dimitri, in his Azure Moon plan for gradual reform, he has no intention of giving up his throne. He's working directly with Rhea on every decision made. And guess what? I don't really trust that pairing, because you know what they did in all of their infinite wisdom of gradual reform? Yeah, they put together plans with Mercedes to cook up a potion that will turn their soldiers into demonic beasts for the tactical advantage. And yeah, they only whipped that one out at the end of Crimson Flower when they're desperate, but it still doesn't change that that's how they work on their war plans in general. Like, how much do we trust them to be cool with admitting that they're wrong when the one time that they're faced with losing, their plan is to just turn their soldiers into demonic suicide bombers? Yeah, I kind of don't trust that they're gonna make the best decisions under pressure. I'm not so sure about that reform, guys. No, it's okay, because we're gonna stop treating the Dusker people like slaves, because Dedu and I are crazy close. Never mind that the Dusker people were literally decimated by the Holy Kingdom of Fargus after they were all blamed for one guy's assassination. And that is not ancient history, by the way. Literally, 18-year-old Dedu is a survivor of the tragedy of Dusker. This is Dimitri's immediate family who made these decisions. And he's like, oh, yeah, they shouldn't have done that. Okay, but what else? How about this, Dimitri? What are your plans for reparations to the Dusker people? Hell, what about to the Dusker survivors in your own school? Oh, we did help out Cyril. That's right. That orphan of war who that one family took in to be a servant. Yeah, what did we do with him? That's right. We made him a servant for Rhea. Yeah. Let's take it back to our other white-haired conqueror, Daenerys. Grey Worm and Missandei are active members in Daenerys' plan to completely change the political system of Westeros. Just like Cyril and Dedu, they have been directly in the path of violence from a perspective that neither Daenerys nor Edelgard could ever understand. And Grey Worm and Missandei, they consistently rise in respect and personal freedom. And Daenerys actively takes their feedback and suggestions into consideration as equals. It's kind of like Petra. She is from a vassal state recently conquered by the Adrestian Empire. A lot of the same issues going on between the Holy Kingdom of Fargus and Dusker, they're right here. But instead, Petra is actively treated as an equal team member and a powerful ally because of her standing in her own community. Petra's house leader treats her with respect and encourages professors to come with them on quest to protect the people of Petra's homeland. Meanwhile, as much as I can feel the love from Dimitri and Dedu, and yes, I absolutely ship them. Even in the Azura Moon route, Dedu's power comes almost exclusively from being bros with Dimitri. And sometimes it almost feels more like he's being treated as a beloved family pet, and it's just heartbreaking. As much as I hate that any of these kids have to experience any of this, I do at least appreciate that while Petra is in a really precarious situation, she's not alone, and at least the Adrestian Empire didn't genocide her people. Now, remember how I said I wanted to get Daenerys at Hogwarts? I think I actually got something better. Because, let's be real, Daenerys' story, as written by the showrunners Benioff and Weiss, it chickened out. They had everything set up for them for a character who used her power and her privilege to dismantle slave systems, to reflect and interrogate herself with hard questions about where she stands in those systems of privilege, to take these systems, turn them on their heads, listen to the people around her, and figure out how to move forward. She learned from her wins and her losses, and eventually she understood that sometimes in order to build something better, you have to burn down what was there before it. But then, in the final season, they just went, JK, she's crazy actually. I mean, look at this. Guys, burning stuff is bad. Obviously. What if instead, let's just take all-knowing Bran and he'll run things like it's Minority Report and then everybody's happy and crime and violence is gone. Yeah, I don't think this was a win for anybody. But Edelgard, at least in Crimson Flower, she follows through. She doesn't go mad. She doesn't become the thing she's fighting against. Instead, she wins over this system that is stacked against her. She takes the plan that she has for what comes next, and then she leaves. And all of those things, all of those missed opportunities that could have been there, that were right there, that is part of what made season 8 of Game of Thrones so gutting for me. It felt like the writers couldn't imagine a world in which a woman has power and is actually maybe right about revolution? What? Nah. They just had to make her cartoonishly evil at the ringing of a bell to justify Big Brother Bran ending. And that's not to say that a heel turn couldn't have been done right? Like, I still want to see that last book because I have faith that if anyone will do it right, it will be George, right? But Benioff and Weiss, they sure didn't do it well. And while we're on petty points, the people of the internet who would cry fascist at Edelgard are given the stupidest piece of fuel. Especially when you consider that by definition, Autocrat Rhea is actually much closer to actual fascism. Just let me ask, right? Why does their flag need to look like some Nazi bullshit? Probably just to cinch the violent war-starting bad guy on Edelgard for all the other routes. But wouldn't it be more interesting if things were a little bit more friggin' subtle, right? I mean, hell, it's Daenerys' 3-second mad turn, and it's just shoved in at the very beginning with the flag because the nuance was just too good at nuancing on its own. Like, we had to make it so ham-fistedly obvious. And could I be making stronger points? Yes, probably, absolutely. This is just one of those things that really disappoints me. It feels like a cop-out and cheap storytelling to take a really complex and interesting character and just give her this sloppy visual shorthand back to some of the most horrific villains in real-world history, because we just need to make sure that everyone gets the point that war is bad. Like, yeah, fucking duh. And in this situation, screw it. I actually support Edelgard's revolution. Not because I think war is good, obviously, or because I'm naive about the cost. I'm not. But because sometimes, not always, but sometimes, I do believe that the cost of not fighting is higher. I believe that some systems can't be reformed and can only be replaced. And at least Fire Emblem Three Houses had the guts to tell that story honestly, even when prestige show Game of Thrones lost its nerve. And that's not only like fangirl enthusiasm talking, it's also just as much that I can recognize and understand sitting in a system, even benefiting from a system, but still looking around and seeing that it is doing no good, while everyone else instead just says, be patient, change takes time, work within it. And yeah, I can't do what Edelgard does. I have an internet connection and a camera, and not an empire. But I appreciate seeing a story where someone actually does dismantle the system, where revolution isn't portrayed as inherently evil or doomed to fail, and where sometimes the traumatized girl with the white hair gets to win and build something better instead of just being crazy and sad. There has to be something there, right? I mean, for me to 6 years later still be coming back to this game, I love turn-based combat, but it's not like the combat system is revolutionary, and not because the graphics blew my mind, it's a Switch game. But I keep coming back because Edelgard and her story asks questions that most games are too scared to seriously engage with. What would you personally sacrifice to fix a broken system? And when is revolution justified? Fire Emblem's Three Houses doesn't give you an easy answer to these. It does, however, try to give you several honest ones. And that's definitely more than I can say for Season 8 of Game of Thrones. So here's hoping that Fortune's Weave will stick to its guns and be more of a Three Houses and less of a Season 8. But I don't know. Like I said, just a nerd. What do you think? I am all down for discussion and civilized disagreement. Let's chat about it in the comments. And if you want a non-civilized disagreement, you are still welcome in the comment section. I mean, it is free speech and all. Just remember that I have free speech to respond right back to you. All right, that's enough of me for today. But do me a favor and just try and be good to yourself and try and be good to everybody else out there too, okay? Bye.